I want to start with you, Sanjay. You said that, or you and a number of your supporters have said that Prashant Kishor is in some ways shilling for the BJP. But if you hear the operative parts of the interview, he may be saying that the BJP is coming back, but he's been really, really critical of the Prime Minister. And in fact, the argument he seems to be making is that Modi could have been defeated had the opposition done a better job. Over to you, Sanjay.
Well, I have heard Prashant's interview both with you as well as Karan Thapar yesterday, and I think the fundamental point when you talk of a political brand, where I think he and I tend to be on the same platform, that it has been diminishing for a while. So I guess he's buttressed the point I made earlier in your program. How does a brand really diminish? I don't want to indulge in some abstract intellectual theorization about an upper caste consensus, etc. I think basically the brand gets affected by performance. And if anyone believes, and including Prashant believes, that a farmer distress, which we saw on the streets, if anyone on the panel or even the viewers believes that the serious unemployment problem of India is not going to impact Mr. Modi's electoral performance, or the food inflation warned, or the fact that when you look at the issues of farmers, the young, the poor, the women, the Manrega issues, the Congress's ability to go out and successfully make the guarantees that have made it win Telangana and Karnataka into a national narrative. If these things people believe are absolutely zero impact, I think a lot of people could be relying on a
But
anecdotal
he's not saying that
incidents
there's
to
zero
create a
impact. He's
story.
saying they're very impactful and the opposition didn't do a good job in channeling that distress.
That's
He's
exactly
not saying that there's zero impact.
Barkha, that's exactly what I pointed out in my article. So if we agree that the BJP's performance has actually been subpar, that Mr. Modi actually today is no longer as trusted and credible as before. I mean, look at his speeches. I mean, forget the ridiculous hate speeches he's made. Yesterday, he said something as obtuse and outrageous as saying that in the Prime Minister's house, a future Prime Minister could be giving terrorists biryani. This is the current prime minister of this country. So, the assumption that we all have is that the people of this country are not enlightened or smart enough to see the wheat from the chaff, or can make out the ridiculous and absurd conversations that has become the political narrative of the day. So I'm coming down to this point, Barkha. If you look at the BJP and the Congress historically, they end up with around 310 to 315 seats together in any Lok Sabha election, barring, I have mentioned, 2019 and 1984 on an average. They aggregate approximately 50% of the vote share. And really, it is a zero-sum game between the two. And I think what Yogendra Yadav has really hit the nail on the head, and he and I haven't spoken about it. Let me tell you this publicly. We have had no conversations at all. The truth is, if you look at the trends that I'm getting, and these are not trends that I've got from Congress sympathizers, if you look at the performance likely coming out from Karnataka, Maharashtra, where I live, I'm telling you, Maharashtra is going to give an absolutely stunning verdict in the days ahead. You can mock at it. People can say, hey, Sanjay is a Congress, kind of a sympathizer, so he will say what he wants to. These are going to be a takeaways from the BJP tally. So my concluding point, because I know this program can't go on and on, is the Congress is diminishing the BJP. If the BJP is losing, the Congress is gaining. And the Congress needs to just go to 90 seats. And for a lot of people who mock that how can Congress get 90 or 100, I need to remind them, not long ago, the Congress was at 206. Earlier, it was at over 300, and it has been at 414.
So
If the
one of the
Congress
very
is
interesting
so
points,
big,
Sanjay, that you make, one of the very interesting and important points that you make is that the Congress does not have to do spectacularly well in this election to
yeah.
halt the BJP. And I think your magic number is what, 90, right? As you
90.
just
I
said.
think the Congress gets 90, and a lot of the critics will say, but does it mean is holding on to 2019? But in 2019, it had an 8% hit rate against the BJP. So don't worry about that. If it's a BJP versus the Congress is good at 90 to make sure that the BJP is not in
Okay,
government. And I'm not even talking about AAP or Samajwadi Party or Uddhav Thackeray Party
okay.
or the RJD doing better.
अश्विनी जी, संजय जी का सेंट्रल आर्गुमेंट है कि कांग्रेस के 90 सीट्स इज इनफ टू ब्रिंग द बीजेपी डाउन टू बिलो 270. मोटा मोटा संजय, am I right कि अगर कांग्रेस के 90 सीट आते हैं कि कंपटीशन इन द एंड इज बिटवीन द बीजेपी एंड द कांग्रेस. अश्विनी जी.
Right. That's right.
चलिए, कम से कम संजय जी ने कहा 90 सीट में हम जो है लड़ाई में आ जाएंगे। तो जो पार्टी 400 का कहती थी, राजीव जी के समय 400 मिला था, उसके बाद तो कोई बहुमत की सरकार आई नहीं, कांग्रेस हमेशा अल्पमत में रही, सबको मिला के यूपीए की गवर्नमेंट चलती रही। तो 90 की बात सोच रहे हैं, वो तो अभी भी वो भी टेढ़ी खीर है 90 तक पहुंचना। कुल मिलाकर अब इस समय विपक्ष ये सोच रहा है, देखिए बरखा जी, ये परसेप्शन जो भी सेट करें, मोदी जी ब्रांड है, राहुल जी ब्रांड है, जो भी हो, फिलहाल एक नेट सेल में ये बात कही जा सकती है कि विपक्ष इस समय हार के कारण और हार की हताशा झेलने के मूड में है कि बहाने क्या बनाएंगे। हारने के बाद 4 तारीख को हमारे पास बहाना क्या होगा, क्योंकि ईवीएम का बहाना सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बंद कर दिया। अभी एक नया बहाना चालू हुआ था कि वोट कैसे बढ़ गए, उस पर भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक लोग पहुंचे। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कह दिया कि 17C के अलावा हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते। दोनों चीजें सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बंद कर दी। अब हार के बहाने खोज रहे हैं। और मैं अभी भी कह रहा हूं, बड़े गर्व से कह रहा हूं कि हिंदुस्तान की जनता पर, भारतीय जनता पार्टी को गर्व है कि हम सरकार बनाने जा रहे हैं और अपने अकेले बल पर बनाने जा रहे हैं। 400 पार का नारा हमने दिया है। अब हमारी जनता कितनी उत्साहित है, हमारे कार्यकर्ता कितने उत्साहित है, वो ठीक है। लेकिन वही प्रशांत किशोर जी की बात फिर आ जाती है कि हिंदुस्तान के संविधान में 272 पर ही सरकार बनती है। हमने नारा दिया 200 पार का। वेस्ट बंगाल में हम 3 पर थे बरखा जी, 77 पहुंचे। कितने परसेंट इंक्रीज किए, ये देखने वाली बात है। वहां 44 सीट पर कांग्रेस की 0 हो गई, ये भी देखने वाली बात है। वहां पर लोगों ने, ये किसी ने नहीं कहा, कांग्रेस ही आर्गू करते थे कि भाई ये लोग तो 200 पार का नारा देते थे, 77 का वो नहीं हुआ। लेकिन जब 44 से 0 कांग्रेस हो गई, एक बार भी कांग्रेस ने नहीं कहा कि हम 0 हो गए। मतलब यह है कि दूसरे का 2 मंजिल का घर है, उसको गिराकर हम अपने बराबर कर लेंगे, अपना 1 मंजिल का 2 मंजिल नहीं बनाकर उससे ऊंचा नहीं हो सकते हैं। स्थिति ये है। और 4 तारीख को हार के बहाने कौन कौन से नए नए आएंगे, ये आप देखते रहिए, क्योंकि विपक्ष की भाषा बदल गई है। राहुल जी जो बोल रहे हैं, चाहे अखिलेश जी बोल रहे हैं, या जो भी नेता विपक्षी दल का बोल रहा है, आप उनके भाषण को उठाकर देख लीजिए, तो ये लोग हताशा में है, हार की हताशा में। जी
अच्छा संजय जी, वेरी एक सेंटेंस में इंटरजेक्शन बिकॉज द अदर्स आर वेटिंग। संजय।
या जस्ट अ शॉर्ट पॉइंट कि आई वांट टू टेल अश्विनी जी को, मैं इतना ही बताना चाहूंगा। मैं आप मेरा लेख आपने पढ़ा नहीं है, और मैं इतना ही कहना चाहूंगी, कांग्रेस खुद भारतीय जनता पार्टी को 272 से कम कर देगी। और इंडिया अलायंस का यदि पूरा प्रदर्शन देखिएगा तो भाजपा 210, 215, 220, 225 कहीं भी फंस सकती है। एंड द इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट बरखा, देयर इज नो एनडीए, इट्स ऑल मोदी, एंड दैट इज द पॉइंट आई वांट टू हाईलाइट। Barring TDP, I really don't see Ajit Pawar or Shinde or JDU making any, or LJP really adding to the kitty.
one of the
So the
one of the
BJP is down to
problems
230, 240. They are not in government.
Okay, one
बरखा
of the
जी, एक लाइन
challenges for the,
इजाजत हो तो,
हाँ
एक
जी
लाइन।
जी 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 बोलिए।
देखिए, अभी इतने महत्वपूर्ण चुनाव के बीच में शरद पवार जी का एक बयान आया था कि जितनी छोटी पार्टियां हैं कांग्रेस में मर्ज कर जाएंगी। क्या सोचकर उन्होंने बयान दिया, उस बयान के क्या मायने निकाले जा सकते हैं, इसको भी थोड़ा सा आप लोग अपने उसमें जो है पत्रकारिता जीवन के उससे देखिए कि कांग्रेस की स्थिति यानी कि विपक्ष के नेता से कम होने जा रही है क्या, कि वो लोग मर्ज करके विपक्ष में एक नेता खोज रहे हैं। और संजय जी का ये उत्साह से लवरेज है, संजय जी इनका लेख जो भी है, मैं ये नहीं कह सकता, लेकिन उनके बयान को भी कम करके नहीं आंका जा सकता। जी
चलिए, हमने Sugata, you have written a whole book on Rahul Gandhi's strange burden, as you call it. We've spoken a lot about brand Modi. Is the way that we perceive Modi changing? Is Modi's brand the same? Is it in decline? And these discussions will continue. What happens to Rahul Gandhi? Abhijit says that, for the last 15 years he's been hearing this discussion. Has anything changed? Will it depend on the result? Jo jeeta wahi Sikandar. Nobody is saying, even Sanjay Jha is not saying that the Congress is going to win this election. I haven't heard. He's actually saying the Congress needs to get 90 seats to pull the BJP down to about 220. And that's all that it takes to change the game. He's making a modest sort of claim there. Do you find it practical? Do you find it realistic? I mean, you're asking for the Congress to increase about 30 odd seats. That doesn't sound like a dramatic
Change.
claim.
Yeah. No, but I mean, just 2 points before I come to the brand Rahul Gandhi, as people have been discussing about it. See, one is both PK and Yogendra Yadav are politicians, and PK put out a number to you. And therefore, he wanted to balance, if I am reading it correctly, Barkha, he wanted to balance that by speaking about the diminishing of the Modi brand. I think he was sort of quite of playing a very nuanced game there. He was not actually very, very serious about the Modi brand having declined. So that was my reading, and I may be completely wrong about it, but I think he was very cleverly balancing the number thing with the brand thing, so that people don't pounce on him, but still people have pounced on him. That's a separate thing. And of course, Yogendra Yadav has embedded himself in the Congress campaign, so we don't need to sort of talk about it. But the sad part is, Barkha, that if the Congress and the India Alliance had spent some more time in building their infrastructure and institutional support instead of just allowing these narratives, and they have done a very smart job, changing these narratives, countering the BJP, checkmating them. All of that has been done very smartly this time. They have played a great social media game. So they have created a fantastic bubble. They've done all of that. But I wish they had put the same energy to actually build a kind of institutional and an infrastructural base to win the elections, and think beyond the 90 that Sanjay ji has been speaking. So that is the sad part. And then coming to the brand Rahul Gandhi, I told you that brand Modi, the way we perceive brand Modi may have changed. The brand Modi may have completely altered and may not be diminished or may not have grown, but it may have altered, and there may be a different kind of consensus that has come to push up that brand. But in the case of Rahul Gandhi, I have watched him extremely closely. I've read every word that he has written or spoken. And, the last interview the statement that you played out, Barkha, starting from there, it's such a vulnerable statement that he's making. I'm an insider to the system. So what does that do? It actually transfers the burden of the family onto him when he should actually be breaking away and building a new Congress. Like, Tony Blair built the new Labour in England, right? In UK. So, I remember the New Yorker headline at that point. I think it was Julian Barnes's piece where he said, left, right, here comes Tony Blair. So he had sort of, brought two things together. So the brand Rahul, to say, has been experimental, to say the best. Brand Rahul has been impulsive throughout this election and earlier too. And he has been absolutely not nuanced, Barkha. I think there is a certain amount of preparation that goes before you address a huge gathering. You should know what to say and what not to say. It's more an intuitive thing, which I discussed quite elaborately with examples inside the book, in my book. But, like this, the statement you played out, he sort of always sort of makes himself vulnerable. And I don't know where that instinct comes from.
That's very interesting. Abhijit, I know Sanjay had an interjection. I'll take it right after Abhijit. Abhijit?
Thanks, Barkha. So, my question is, I want to believe, Sanjay, that they will, Congress just needs to get 90, right? My question is, where is it coming from, Barkha? So, the problem here is, I want you to look at the absolute voting numbers. In 2009, the BJP only had 78 million voters and the Congress got 119 million voters. Okay? By 2014, that had changed to 171 million voters. Over 100 million voters added by the BJP, whereas the Congress came down by about 10 million voters. Now, in 2019, the last election, the BJP has again jumped by 60 million voters, Barkha. 60 million voters to 230 million votes. And the Congress has managed to go back to its 2009 tally of 119 million votes. Where are these additional 30, 40 seats going to come from? This is what I don't understand. Even if you take away the dip in voting margin, you even assume that everybody not coming out is a BJP voter and everybody coming out is in fact intent on voting against the BJP. How is that working out with these kind of numbers at play, number one? Because, a margin of 119 million votes 120 million votes versus 230 million votes. You're looking at this is not a catch-up figure. This is more than a catch-up figure, right? It's almost double the voting numbers out there. Lastly, just one point. Even if they come together, do their votes port to each other? Because, you had that Mahagathbandhan in the 2017 election in UP, and even Akhilesh and Congress coming together did not port the votes together, and Yogi came with a huge margin in the assembly election. Remember? So I'm not believing this vote portability. I don't think adding up the numbers actually